recording. We'll go in 3, 2.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Fernie Merida. I am your host for Dad Lives Matter. Today, I got one of my brothers, a good friend of mine, my boy Luna, Big Luna. You guys know him for Big Luna on our TikTok account. We became really close friends really, really fast. This brother is like, I honestly thought he was one of my lost brothers from the past. And the crazy part is he actually said that I look like one of his brothers. So it was definitely a connection meant to be. It's definitely a bromance that happened. This dude is 6'5", 280 pounds, heavyweight boxer with a tall pink Starbucks drink. Don't mess with this guy. He's the real deal. So I wanted to bring him on here so he can share his story. We have a very, very similar story. So this podcast is going to be more focused on the struggles of being a dad and going through the court system, which a lot of us dads go through. And that's kind of what we're going to focus on. So again, we have a very similar path when it came to court. He's going to just kind of touch base a little bit on a couple stuff. We're going to ask him a couple questions, and we'll go from there. So with that being said, let's give our brother a big, warm welcome. Luna, thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, of course. How's your day?
Good, man. I'm a dad. Long days, hard work, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's right. That's right. Are you nervous?
A little bit. This is going to be the first time that I've went through 9 years of this court battle. So it's a little nerve-wracking because going through it is one thing. Looking back and talking about it is a whole different subject.
Yeah, of course, man. I totally understand. We're just two dudes just talking about our history and what happened. That's really what we're doing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Let's kind of get into it. And I know it's gonna be a little nerve-wracking, man. If there's something you don't want to talk about, you don't have to talk about it, brother. There's no pressure here. It's just a conversation of two big dudes just sharing their story and being relatable.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that 100%. One of the crazy things is my son is 13 now. So I had a conversation with him and I had told him, I'm going to share some stuff, but the reason why I'm going to share it is because there might be other dads that are going through the same situation. And if they don't have to put their sons or daughters through some of the stuff, even if it's just one that you went through, then are you okay with this? And he was all for it. So I'm ready to go.
That's awesome, bro. What's your son's name first?
My son's name is.
And Isaiah is who we're going to be talking about. He's who you fought through the courts for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how old is he?
He's 13 now. He was born October 17, 2007.
That's awesome. So my son that I'll be talking about with you as well, because we'll be sharing our stories. That's Brooklyn, who is my son who I fought in the courts for custody battles. He just turned 11 yesterday, actually. So very, 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 our story is so crazy, similar when it comes to the court. So I'm really excited that we're able to do this together, brother. I'm glad your son's on board with it as far as talking about it. I know those things stay with them, but there's a lot of the story ends well, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the biggest thing. So before we get into all that, man, why don't you tell our viewers or listeners just a little bit about you really quick? Just, where you from, how old you are, how many kids, just a real quick bio.
So I'm from Sacramento, California, born and raised. 35. I started out thinking I was too good for school. So after I made it through high school, God knows how, I was short like 60 something credits, but they pushed me through. My dad always jokes that they paid him to let me graduate. I went into construction, and about the time I had my son is also 2007 when the economy crashed. And so I went jobless for about a year and a half to 2 years, and I pretty much lost everything. And in that meantime, my aunt had a nonprofit organization where they go and they help people that need their houses energy or weatherized, and it made energy efficient. And so the idea was just to get in there, get some of my tattoos removed, and move on to something bigger and better. Well, in the midst of that, I found HVAC. I didn't even know what a filter was when I first started. Now I'm actually the HVAC supervisor, and I have my own business. I have a beautiful wife who I've been married to. January 29th is going to be 9 years. We've been together for 11, and I have four amazing kids. I have my older daughter, Alina, who is 15, going to be 16. I have Isaiah, who is 13. I have Faith Angelina, who is 9, and then we have our baby Viviana, who is 5. And my marriage is a blended family. I brought Isaiah to the table. Carmen brought, my wife's name is Carmen. She brought Alina to the table, but I've had Alina since she was 4.5, going to be 5, and I know a lot of people say because the correct term is step, but she's my baby. I mean, that's what she is. She knows it. I know it, and so yeah. So like I said, I own my own business now.
I'm gonna cut you there really quick. I love that you said that, and I just want to emphasize on it. That's why I want to cut you. I'm the same. I know we call it step parents, right? I call it my bonus daughter.
Right.
She never calls me stepdad unless we need to be clear on some stuff. Just for some people, for the most part, that's my daughter, man. Just so you said, like that's my baby, and nobody messing with my daughter. Like it doesn't matter, right? Like I know step parent is a title, but at the end of the day, like we are the dads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not their biological father, but we are their dads. So I'm the
Yeah.
same, man. My daughter and I, we call each other dad, daughter. That's really what we do. So I stand behind that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So when Isaiah was about, let's see, he was 3 when we got together. So she's 2 years older. So she was 7. Well, they used to fight all the time about who was going to hold what hand. And so me, that's my baby. I said, I got a way to get it figured out. I tattooed her name on this hand and I tattooed his name on this hand. So there was never a conflict of who was going to hold what hand, but she thought it was like the best thing in the world. I put a little heart on there, and that's kind of been our little thing ever since then.
That's cool, man. I actually really love that. I didn't know that about you. So you
Yeah.
actually tattooed their names so they knew which hand to hold.
Yeah. It got crazy when I had the other two. So there's a picture of us in Disneyland where I have Alina on this hand, I have Zay on this hand, and then I have my Faith on this hand, and I have on this side of my neck, and I have Vivi on this side. So I have Faith sitting on this shoulder and Vivi sitting on this shoulder.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to see that photo. I only have Brooklyn's name right there. So it's definitely something that I've been wanting to work. Like, where am I going to put my stepdaughter? Where am I going to put my son? I have plans on putting them right here on this arm, and they're all going to be some kind of monster. So the baby will be Frankenstein. Brooklyn would be a werewolf, and my daughter would be a vampire. And it would show their faces with all those little characters, and it's going to say "Daddy's Little Monsters" on it.
I love that. See, now that's what I wanted to do too, but my wife decided that she deserved the whole arm, so she got the whole arm there and her name.
There you go. Can't go nowhere now. Thanks for the intro, brother. So that way everybody knows who you are. And what our topic is going to be, again, the court system, right? Fighting a little bit of the court system. So give people a little bit of background there. I'll ask the question, you just kind of answer them, and then we'll go into the story. So we're talking about Isaiah. Am I saying that right? Okay.
Yes.
So Isaiah is not Carmen's son.
No.
Okay, that's your ex.
Biologically, yes.
That's your ex. What's her name?
Do I have to say that?
No.
Okay.
So that's I'm not even going to ask. So we're just going to call her Stacy. So Stacy is biologically Isaiah's mom.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so how old was he when you guys went to court? How did that happen? Before you went to court, like, give us a little background on that.
So we got married and divorced in 2008. Zaya was born in 2007. We just didn't see eye to eye. It was a mistake. Wasn't supposed to happen the way it happened. Um, and
We're talking about
she ended up,
your marriage was a mistake.
yeah, yeah. So basically, what happened is in short term, she ended up having sex with my son's godfather at my godfather's house on New Year's night with my whole family there. And so that was just for
I didn't know
me.
you were going to share this part of the story, so I didn't want to bring it up. But for all the listeners who heard that, you guys heard that correct. Exactly what he said is exactly what happened. So you were married for how long?
Oh, I would say not even 4 to 6 months at the most.
Less than 4 to 6 months. You're married, and you catch your wife at the time, Stacy.
My cousin actually caught him.
Oh, your cousin caught them.
Yeah.
In the bathroom with your son's godfather at a family event. Where are you at this time? You're just downstairs?
New Year's. Yeah, I was downstairs.
All right. So it's New Year's. You guys got that right. It's New Year's. Your cousin finds you. You guys are at a family event. And your cousin finds your wife at the time, who you're married to, obviously, is having sex upstairs in the bathroom with the same person who is your son's godfather.
Right.
So how old is your son at this moment?
He was just over a year old.
And the reason I'm saying this, guys, is because a lot of us are going through stuff like this. You know, and I'm highlighting this, and not to throw salt on the wound, right? Because that's already done. He's already over that. It's already passed. It's over with, right? My point is that, you know, if someone is going through a tough time, that's brutal. I mean, you guys try to put yourself in his shoes right now. I mean, I know what I would do, you know. Now it would be different, but back then I know what I would have done if I was in his situation. You know what I mean? And so to be able to be like, let's fast forward really quick. 10 years later, right, or 11 years later, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But are you grateful that that happened now?
That was the best thing that happened to me.
Boom. And that was what I was hoping you were going to say, bro. And that's my point, guys. So, because we all go through struggles, man. And sometimes you feel like, hey, I'm like at the worst of the worst. Because that, you guys picture this, understand what he's saying. You're married for less than 6 months to someone. You have a child at home. You're a family. You get what I'm saying? And then you're at a family event, and your cousin walks in on your wife having sex with someone who's basically your cousin as well, right? Like, I mean, this person's obviously got to be pretty close enough for you to be like, this is going to be my son.
He actually was my cousin too.
Oh, he actually was your like blood related?
He's blood related, yeah.
Oh shit! Wow, that's even more. So imagine that guy's like, that would destroy a man. That would just right? And I'm sure it did, bro. Like, we're not saying it did it. But my point is, like, when you're going through it, the hardest part is to go through it. But at the end of everything, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, right? There's like, you got to go through the storm. You got to go through hell to get through the end of everything. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm really glad that you said that. Like, that was like the best thing that could have happened for you, right? It wasn't like you were like, yeah, I'm grateful it happened. No, you were like, that was the best thing that could have happened to me. So if you're going through a real tough time, imagine yourself 10 years from now. That's going to be the best thing that could have happened to you. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I just want to go ahead and really highlight that, bro, because that's got to be tough, man. So what happens next after this?
So then obviously, you know, I spent my New Year's Day kicking her out. And then from there, I had my son full time. She would come once every 2 weeks. And in reality, it would be her mom coming more than her to see him, you know? And so I went from, you know, being this young dad, because I was 22 at the time, to now being this single father, completely raising him completely by myself in this apartment. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, you know, all these things where I'm trying to figure out. So for me, I was blessed to have my mom. So she helped me out a lot in the beginning, where we ended up over there a lot. But there was so many times where I'm a stubborn person. Don't tell me I can't do something, because I'm going to do it just to prove a point. So I figured it out a lot. And there were times where, we would share a cup of noodles for me to put on the bed, and that would be what it is because I wasn't going to go ask somebody for help. And there were other times where we would go feast at mom and dad's house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely 100%. And I love that you're really saying that. And the fact that you're 22 is a big deal. I'm glad that you caught that. I almost forgot to ask what age you were going through when you went through all that. Now, when you went
Yeah.
through all this, did this affect your outlook as being like a father? How do you think that affected you, or did it?
I don't think it did affect me. It affected me to the point where I realized that I wasn't going to allow him to grow up with nobody. So there was no way in hell I was going to leave his side. So he was with me everywhere I went. If he couldn't go somewhere, I didn't go. That's as simple as it was for me.
I love that. Um, I love it because I can relate. Not so much like that, but I can definitely understand like how we have to adjust our lives, to for better our kids, right? Like for my kid, for a long time, I had to learn how to eat with one hand, so I
Hmm.
could hold him with my other hand. So
Yeah.
I mastered like, oh, I could eat a pizza with one hand. That's an easy meal. You know what I mean? I could eat a hot dog with one hand. I wasn't having a steak with one hand. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
learning to adjust and pivot when you're a father, that's a big one. You know, and a parent in general, just learning to adjust and pivot. So let's kind of fast forward a little bit now. All right, so we know you went through these steps. You're going
Right.
through some adversity. You're struggling, and obviously you're stubborn, which is that happens. You know, I'm the same way. You're sharing a cup of noodles. That's a big deal. I've been there. I know that feeling,
Right.
man. It's painful. It's a very painful feeling for a man, especially a father. That's a tough place to be. So, what happens as far as like what happens next, man? Like with court? Like you serve her? Does she serve you? How does that look?
So the way it worked out was, and I'm gonna take one step back. Is
Mhm.
what was really hard for me is because prior to him being born, I was addicted to cocaine and ecstasy, and I had a really bad drug problem. And so being a single dad and completely clean, I quit everything: cigarettes, drinking, smoking, cocaine, everything. I finally hit a point where I realized that I needed help, and being stubborn and being this macho person wasn't going to fix anything because he needed help. So I moved into my mom and my dad's house, and along that line was where her mom started being more like, I want to see him, I want to see him. And then now she started wanting to see him, and that started affecting me personally because I felt like at the time I felt like, now you want to see him, now you have time for him, and we started getting text messages from her sister, and the text messages were going that she was going in days without sleep, and she was hallucinating and all these things. Well, long story short, come to find out, she was involuntarily put into a mental hospital and diagnosed with bipolar, because she had went 2.5 weeks without sleep. And so at that point I realized, like, he's not going over there, I'm keeping him. And so from that point on, I kept him. Well, I would say maybe about 3 or 4 months down the road, her mom had called and said, she's out, things are better, she's on her medication, can she see him? So I thought, okay, no problem. Oh, I thought you were talking.
All
Sorry.
right, I muted myself. Sorry. During that time, you said she went 2 weeks without sleeping. All this situation happened. Was she addicted to drugs during this time?
I don't know. I can only assume so because she was a real heavy partier. I mean, and you're gonna find out throughout the story that it was just that was her life, was to party, to drugs, drinking. Like that was more of a priority than her son. Yeah.
Okay.
So so I let him go with her. Well, then I got a text message that said, basically she's taking him to Utah because that's where her dad lives, and I'll never see him again. And so my sister was working at Golden One, and at Golden One was Carmen, my wife now, who was working there, and she had just went through her whole court battle. And so my sister said, "Hey, my friend just went through all this. She can help you. You need to call her." So I said, okay. So I gave her a call. I explained everything to her, and she was just real adamant, like, you can't mess around with that. You need to file an ex parte now. Don't play around. Well, I didn't know anything. I'm this 22-year-old kid who I'm thinking like, I got it figured out. So I go into court. I'm like, hey, I'm the dad. I want to file an ex parte. So the lady just throws the paperwork at me and says, all right, figure it out. If you do it right, they'll have a court hearing today. If not, then they'll schedule one for you in the future. So,
So just jump in really quick. The court systems are their own thing. I'm not going to say they're corrupt. I'm not going to say they're wrong. You're going to get treated a certain way, and you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn to pivot during these times. And one of the biggest things, I don't know if you agree with me, Luna, you have to keep your composure. You have to stay calm.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Same situation with me and Luna. My baby mom took my son, ran off with him to Arizona. I went to the court to file immediately because I was like, what the hell's going on? Same thing, guys. For those of you who are listening, you can't see me. I have 1-inch plugs in my ears. I have tattoos. I'm a big guy. And, I think they automatically judge us sometimes. So same system happened to me. I went and they literally threw paperwork at me as well. Like, here, fill that out. Boom. And I was like, what the fudge? Like, it was just crazy. So I've been there and I relate to that. And that sucks because I was young also. I was in my 20s. And so you almost feel discouraged, like, damn, what am I going up against? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so for any dads who are going through this, you have to stay calm, and just stay chill and ask for assistance and ask for help. So I don't want to take away from anything. I just want to highlight on these things really quick.
No, and anything you're saying, brother, I wholeheartedly agree with. I love what you said about not saying specifics about the court. We know what it is, but the reality of it is that our actions and our attitude reflects who we are. And so if you go in there saying you're suitable for your child, you have to show it, because as a father, they have a magnifying glass on you, and it's just tough, period. So so check it out. So I go in there, I fill all the paperwork out. They say, yeah, this is good. Now I give them the details, the bipolar, the whole 9 yards, right? And the lady says, this isn't good enough. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And I'm like, 2 she's gonna take her to Utah, take him to Utah. So I go out of the court and I'm in shock, but I'm also upset because now this is now going on the second week that I have about a week and a half that I hadn't seen my son. And I just feel like a wreck. So I call Carmen and I'm like, hey, this is what happened. What do I do? And she was just like, you did it all wrong. I told you, you know how it is. I told you do this, this, and this. Well, I did it completely backwards. So I went back in, I got another form. I went to her. She helped me fill it out the right way. Next morning, 8 a.m., I was back at court. And don't you know, I had a court date, an ex parte court date that day. And so, and I messed up on the time. It wasn't 2.5 weeks. It was, 2.5 weeks. I'm sorry. So by the end of the third week, I had the court hearing, and the judge actually agreed with everything that I listed, that she was unfit to have him. So now I have a court document that says I can have my son, but she's still like, I'm not giving him to you. So at this point now, we realize I have to call the cops. So we call the cops, and the cops get a hold of her and they say, hey, we're going to meet here at this location and you have to give him up. You can't leave, because the court order said she can't leave the state of California. She had to give him up immediately. And at that point, I didn't have full physical or legal. I just was going to get him so he was safe. So we meet up and I finally have my son back. And I don't know if I hugged Carmen more or him more, because I was so happy she was there, but I was so happy to help me get him. But I just feel like all three of us just hugged like it was a family reunion and just cried it out, right there in that parking lot. And it was just like, it was like a relief, man. I knew he was safe.
Yeah. And then I know that feeling, man. Baby mama took my son for, I want to say, about a week or two. And I remember just horrible, like, not being able to get a hold of them, not
Yep.
knowing what was going to happen. My situation was a little different. She lied and filed a restraining order on me. Basically said I put hands on her. No proof, none at all. When you put a restraining order on someone, they don't speed that process up. They take the
Yeah.
time on it.
Right.
So I got screwed pretty bad on that situation. So, when I was able to get my son back, man, I fell to my knees. I was just so freaking happy and excited. So, I definitely know what you're talking about as far as like, hey, like, let me hold you, man. So
Yeah.
that's awesome that you were able to get him back. Did it stop there, or what happens next?
No, that was the beginning of it. I thought, like I said, I thought, okay, cool, I got him. That's it. It's over with. And that was just the beginning of it. So immediately there was a court date that followed up with that. And in that court date, they split the custody. The legal 50-50. The physical, I got 90-10 because of the circumstances and obviously the diagnosis. And it's just like a bad dream, man. I went through 4 or 5 lawyers. I went through 6 mediators. I went through miles and miles of paperwork. And everything that happened, I just felt like no matter what, I had the proper doctor paperwork. I had police reports. Excuse me. I had police reports. My son would just go hysterical anytime because they ended up giving her weekends, and then I had him on the weeks, right? In the beginning, but anytime he would have to go over there, it was like you would think that somebody was just abusing him because he would not get out of the car. He would throw these fits, and brother, it affected him so bad that it started affecting his stomach. He couldn't go to the bathroom regularly, so we had to get him on medication, and it was like the worst thing ever to have to give your son away and just see him so broken every single time. And
How old was he at
that
this point?
oh geez,
Or
I
yeah,
would say
yeah,
3,
okay.
3 years old. Yeah,
So
and
how much?
yeah.
Not a number, just an idea. How much money do you think you spent during that process?
It got so hard that my dad actually sent a text out to the whole family, and I ended up getting a lot of help from the family financially. But I don't know, brother. I couldn't even tell you. I'd say easy 5 to 10 grand, no questions asked.
Yeah, and I just want to. The reason I ask, and money's not important, but the reason I'm asking is because you said a lot of things. Like you did miles of paperwork. I
Hmm.
love that metaphor that you use because it really feels like miles of paper. I remember like being discouraged because there was so much paperwork. I almost gave up because I was like,
Yeah,
"Fuck this," you know what I mean? Obviously, quitting is not an option for us,
right.
and going in and out of courts and fighting, and you're saying like, dude, I had all the proof, I had everything, and they were still messing with me. And
Yeah.
that was a big one for me as well. Like, dude, I remember spending time. I almost lost my job because of the courts, because I had to go
Yep.
to courts many times, and I was like, oh my god, I'm about to lose my job. But I kept fighting and fighting and fighting. In the same situation where I had all the paperwork, I was like, look, this would happen here, this would happen here, this and this and this, and I wasn't winning. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I was losing, even though I was winning. It was micro. You know what I mean? It wasn't a
Right.
macro. It was a micro wins,
Right.
and I felt like my losses were bigger than my wins. You know what I mean? But those
Right.
micros eventually turn into the macro. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so for my situation, I have custody of my son now. Took
Right.
years. It took years of going in courts, going to battles, fighting this same thing, right? Like the the lawyers, the money, the finances, like dude, you're beating down like mediators. Oh gosh, don't even get me started with mediators, right?
Yeah.
And were you in the same situation where you almost lost your job because of this?
Yeah, actually, my boss at the time, love him to death, Eric. He sat me down and he was like, "Check it out. Anywhere else, you would have been fired by now. But I've been there, I've done that, and I love the fact that you're fighting for your son. So I'm gonna give you a break. And anytime you have a court hearing come up, all I need is for you to bring in the paperwork, and you will never have a problem for me." And so, where I thought I was going to go into a meeting where I lost my job, I was actually relieved, and I actually cried because I was just like, that was like a blessing for me because you don't get that in today's world at all.
So Eric, if you're listening to this podcast, man, big thanks to you. Big ups to you, to Eric
for sure
for doing that for you, brother. So what happens next after all this crap that you're going through?
So the crazy thing is that I say all of it, but I want the dads to understand something, that all of it is a very wide statement. I lost custody. I lost physical. I lost legal. I gained it. I lost it. I gained it. She went to supervised visitations. I had text messages from her family on the supervised visits that they weren't really being there. Excuse me. Because she would lie and say they were there. It was supposed to be supervised. It ended up going through an agency. She wouldn't show up. We would wait. If it wasn't me, it was Carmen who would take him and wait. I mean, it was just unreal. And it got to a point where I just felt like, what are we fighting for? She would file every other week, and the biggest thing is the medical. Okay. So understand that, and I'm not taking anything away from people that are diagnosed, but there were multiple things diagnosed. I'm only telling you guys about the bipolar. So being diagnosed with multiple things and bringing that to court, well, one judge, which I love to death, Judge Rahman, was on board. Well, he ended up retiring the first, I think the first year of my court, of all my court issues. And once he retired, I started going through different judges, and I would have to start all the way from the beginning. Well, you know how it is, brother, in the court system. They don't want you there for 20 minutes explaining your story. You need to be in, you need to be out. See you. I got to go on the golf course tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I didn't have
you're a
time.
number. They just, hey, I've seen this before. I've seen this story before, they say. Like, in and out, let's go. And that's, and the thing that's crazy, it takes forever to file. It takes forever to do the paperwork. It takes forever to prepare. And then they're just like, okay, let's get it going. So no, I definitely understand that.
Yeah. And so I lost Judge Rahman, and then, like I said, I went through 6 different mediators. Nothing I ever brought to the mediators was ever good enough. Like you said, we're big dudes, we're tatted out. I would go in there all clean cut, GQ, have my shoe shiners on and everything, and it did not matter. All I was a dressed up thug to them. And I'll never forget it. This one mediator, I don't know her name, but I walked in and I sat down, and I'm very respectful. So one thing about me is I consider myself a drug baby. I was drugged to church growing up. So my dad taught me, always be respectful. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. No, ma'am. I sit down. Hi, ma'am. My name is John Luna Jr., and she goes, cool. Where'd you do time at? And I was like, excuse me? And she goes, don't think you're going to come in here and yes, ma'am, me. I'm not stupid. I see your type all the time. So why don't we just get the truth out there, and then we can figure out how I'm just going to keep your son safe and not around you. And I was like, hold on, what? I was blown away because you can't react.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yo, so let me ask you, sorry to interrupt. Was this mediation being recorded at the time?
No, they were not.
Is it common or uncommon for mediations to be recorded?
To my knowledge, it is not. It was not common.
Not common. Mine was the same. Mine was definitely not recorded, and mine was pretty brutal too.
One of my closest friends, he went through legal battle for custody of his daughter. Again, if I'm not mistaken, each state, the court system varies. This happened here in New York. But his lawyer, the first thing he requested was for all mediations to be recorded and be on the record. I don't know if anybody that listening is either going through this or going to go through this. You can do basic research online, and you'll be able to find legal help either for free or a very low cost. I know for a fact that here in New York, around in well, like a 3 block radius of each court, there are offices of legal help for lower income individuals, and they don't care if you're a woman or man; they will help you. Um, Fernie, I'm
Awesome.
gonna send you some links um, for that. All right. Again, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to
No,
ask
that's
a
good.
question.
And that's a good thing to know. As he's saying, guys, like you can ask for you can ask to be recorded. That's a good idea. My
Yeah.
mediation was pretty shitty because she had lied and said that I had put hands on her.
Hmm.
And I've never put hands on her. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I take a lot of fucking pride in myself to be able to say, hey, I've never put hands on her. And I didn't. And she lied because obviously she wanted to fight the best way that she could, which again, I don't care. The fact that she was fighting for her son, that's cool for me. You know what I mean? But there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. She went the wrong way about it. And it sucked because I had been, I went to jail and that was almost used against me, you know? And it was tough to have the mediator not believe you almost. They're almost like no matter what you say, you're saying it wrong. You're doing it wrong. So having to be careful is definitely tough, man. And the point of all this, and the reason why we keep highlighting all these little barriers that keep happening, right, is because we want all the listeners to understand that everybody's like, God, I had the worst in court. I've had the worst in court. I've had the worst in court. It doesn't matter if you had the worst in court. The point is that we all go through a tough one in court. You
sure.
got to keep fighting. You have to be consistent. Like Luna is like getting judged and I'm getting lied on. You know what I mean? Like there's paperwork being thrown at us. Like you're in and out of court. You're talking miles of paperwork. That stuff is overwhelming. For me, the most overwhelming part was the amount of paperwork I had to fill out. It was so stressful. Going to court, I don't care, right? I could talk all day. That was like, for me, I was like, take me to court. Let's go.
Yeah.
you know? But the paperwork was for me, like, I felt like quitting a lot of times. And, we'll try to find some links for you guys to try to help you guys out for anyone who's going through it or in the midst of it or for the future as well, just to have that information, that knowledge.
Which is
So check this out. So my lawyer at the time, she's retired now, but my lawyer at the time, when I walked out of mediation, she was there with Carmen. And I told her exactly what happened. And she laughed at me and said, don't worry about it. I mean, really, look at you. What do you expect them to say? That's what my lawyer at the time told me.
that is so terrible.
And we're gonna fire that lawyer.
Oh, fired her immediately. I actually, she was the second lawyer, and I was like, I'm done. You can go. I don't want you no more. I don't need your help. And what really was a turning point was, so after I got out of that mediation, the next court hearing. So usually we were having cops, or we were either meeting at a police station, or I was having cops present because of the first initial drop off, the way that it went. So we were meeting in Rancho Cordova at the police station, right? Well, this one day, I wasn't able to do it, and my mom and dad did it, and they drop them off. Well, next thing I know, I'm getting served. What do they call that when you got to stay away from people? Restraining order. I'm getting served a restraining order against me, my mom, my dad, and Carmen. And the restraining order says that during the drop off, Isaiah was now happy to go and wanted to go. And my mom and my dad got her against the car and started pushing and hitting on her and beat her up in front of Isaiah. And he was actually happy to go. So you're telling me now 3 years prior to this, every single drop off and pickup with the cops present, with cops recording, cops notes. Cops canceled it multiple times, but I can't even tell you how many cops were in tears watching this happen and would just be like, I'm done. I don't care what the court order says. He's not going, period. And now all of a sudden he's happy, and my mom and dad happen to just beat her up. So the judge also said, okay, didn't honor the restraining order, but said we're going to take 50% legal, 50% physical, and we're going to give it to her because she filed a restraining order against me, Carmen, my mom, and my dad.
So that actually gave her more custody.
Yep.
Wow.
And it was all lies. None of it true.
You know what we call women like that in my country?
Huh.
Una hija de la gran puta.
What's that mean?
I don't know what that means, but I like
it. Sounds mean.
Hey, I don't know what that guy said, but I like it.
Esa es una hija de la gran puta.
Hija de la puta.
No, de la gran puta.
That's even worse.
That means. That's even worse.
Like a daughter of a big old whore.
Yeah.
We allowed to say this on the podcast, guys?
Yeah. I switched it because I for first of all, I might take this out, but just in case I switch it from clean to explicit, just to be safe.
Some of our listeners are going to be like, "Yo, I didn't even know these guys spoke Spanish."
That's funny.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bunch of immigrants.
All right, guys. So here's the thing, man. And is there anything else you want to highlight on that? Here's my thing. Like, that's some heavy stuff, bro. And I want to get to the good stuff now, the positive stuff, the wins. Is there anything else you want to highlight though before we go to the wins?
I just want, being that I have the moment, I just want dads that are either going through it or going to go through it to understand, like, that was the beginning. That wasn't the middle. That wasn't the end. That was the beginning. She brought a guy around that told my son he'd whoop his ass so bad he wouldn't be able to walk for days. Her sister dragged my son out the front door. CPS got involved. CPS lied for her lawyer. I had to go to the supervisor for CPS for the CPS supervisor to write the judge a letter directly. I mean, it got as ugly as you can imagine. It got so bad that the judge finally said, "I'm done talking to both of you," because the county clerk told me one day, "You guys have the biggest file I've ever seen in Sacramento. This is ridiculous." That's how much we were in court. The judge finally said, "I don't want to talk to either one of you anymore. I want to talk to Isaiah." So we actually brought Isaiah to court, and he went back into the chambers, and he heard Isaiah. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
No, how old was he?
He was 11 at that time.
Wow.
So they brought him in. He was 10. I'm sorry. Excuse me. And that's when everything just said. The judge is just like, "I don't want to see you guys no more. He told me how he feels. I've heard from you. I've heard from you. I don't want to see you guys no more. So you have full 100% legal, 100% custody, or physical and legal, and that's what it is until he's old enough to speak for himself."
Woo!
Yeah, it was crazy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it because that's what happened with me. I think when my son finally, they asked him, is when I finally won.
Yeah.
My battle. And
yeah,
the fact that he was 10, that's years. That was the same for me. It took me like 8 years to finally get custody of my son. He's been living with me for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it was worth every tear. It was worth every
for sure.
fight. It was worth every freaking negative barrier and adversity that came down my way. You know what I mean? Sure. And so that's why I wanted you to talk about this stuff, brother, because I know that's something we both were in very similar situation. And the same thing, you know, my son was put in situations where like any other man would have killed the other person. You know what I mean? Like, and the whole point is like, you have to keep your composure. Guys, when you go 5+ years of the same thing over and over and over again, it gets hard. But the point here is you can't give up. You have to fight. You have to fight. You have to fight. You have to fight. I mean, the judge saw the case over and over again. At one point, you're kind of like, dude, come on, judge, do your fucking job. Like, you really don't see what's going on here, bro? You know, like it really took you to that point to finally say something, and it sucks. That's the court we're going against, guys.
For sure.
And again, I'm not trying to bash on the courts, whatever. That is what it is, man. And the reason why I don't want to bash on the courts is I don't ever want someone to be super negative in the fact like I'm gonna lose. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to put that in your brains
You can't.
because
You
you
can't.
can't, right? Because once you win, it's done. Once you win, you win. You know what I mean? And that's a
Mhm.
big one, man. So for me, like I
Yeah.
got custody of my son. Like he lives with me. It's the best thing ever. Like he's happy. He sees his mom still. Like I'm not, you know, I don't take away from that. His mom, obviously the struggles are a little different from yours. Like his mom is actually she's there. She's got her own kids. She does well, but she made a lot of bad choices that the judge finally was like, no, no more. So
Yeah.
you know, not
Yeah.
to bash on her. I'm not bashing on her. We get along. We're cool. We're co-parents. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
finally being able to win that case was a big, big deal, bro. And I applaud you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad that you came up on top. You know what I mean? After all the battles, I'm glad you had the support system. I can't imagine how much hair you lost through the process, how much money you lost through the process. Like, I know that stuff was painful, man. I remember being in court and having to stare at her on the other side. And, you know, she had her boyfriend at the time. And I was like, oh, I just want to jump over this and knock everybody out. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what the court systems think we are. They think we're that thug. You know what I mean? And you can't be that thug. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be a man at the moment. You know what I mean? A gentleman, if
Yeah.
say a scholar, right?
Hey,
And-
I had the same officer every time, and he actually started helping me. You know, the officer that sits in the court, the deputy of the court. His name was Andy. I'll never forget it. And he actually would tell me throughout the court. We got so close because I would see him all the time. He would actually whisper to me, "Stop moving your hands. Stop moving your arms. Stop shaking your legs. Stop." Yeah,
That's
I thought that was the coolest thing.
the bailiff. That's
The bailiff. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. That's really good because mine didn't like me.
Mhm.
One of the things, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, and I don't know if this affected me. I really do feel, honestly, and not to bring race into it, but I think the fact that she was white and I was Mexican played a factor in my court. It did. I could tell the difference the way she was being treated and the way I was being treated was very, very different. I mean, at one point, guys, I was fighting for custody of my son, and he lived with me. And I told the judge, like, how am I supposed to pay child support? How am I supposed to pay rent? How am I supposed? And I'm asking, like, what the heck's going on, right? Because when you're young, you think about child support too, right? Which you shouldn't. Don't talk about child support. Child support doesn't matter. That's irrelevant, right? And I remember the judge saying, I was like, dude, I got a car payment, I got rent, I got all these payments, and I said, how am I supposed to do this? And the judge goes, I don't care. Sell your car and take the bus.
Mhm.
I was like, damn, ouch. You know what I mean? And so that hurt, bro. I was like, damn, you know, like,
I don't laugh because it's funny, brother. I know what you went through when you felt
Yeah.
that. Like it's
No,
so
you know, like-
frustrating.
bro. And I laugh about it now. Now, at the time, I was like, chill out, you know?
Yeah.
But talk about like, dude, you feel like you're losing those battles. Like I walked away so many times, like just like defeated, like just feeling beat, man. So you guys
So
got
check this
push
out.
it. Go ahead.
Check this out. They told you sell the car. She said, I don't have a vehicle to see my son, so they told me to give her one of my cars. And so the day I gave her the car, she got into an accident. The girl that was her support, which I didn't even know you could do this in mediation. So the whole time, this girl that was her supporter in court was actually smoking weed on the way home, gets into an accident. They try to switch seats. The guy catches them, so they take off. And guess who gets hit with all the bills? I got to pay for the accident. I got to pay for the towing. I had to pay for everything. And I had a court order that said she was awarded that car to see her son.
And still not.
I had to come out of pocket for everything for that. Yeah.
So the point of all this, guys, the whole point is like when you're sitting there thinking like, man, my situation is bad.
Mhm.
Think about the judge taking one of your cars.
Yeah, hold on.
He said, "Hold
Okay,
on."
first of all, I'm gonna all the stuff that I said. I'm gonna edit it out because I don't. This is supposed to be a conversation between the two of you. But damn, brother, Jesus fucking Christ,
Dude, I'm telling you,
I
man.
got the shit under the
No.
stick, dude.
yo,
I was told they sold my car. They told him to
Bro.
give it your car.
Bro.
True story. I have the court paperwork. You guys want to see it?
Bro, hold on. Let me ask you this. You paid out of pocket for all this stuff when she got in an accident. Did the court order her to reimburse you at all?
No, the court, that same judge said, I can't help you there. You need to go to small claims court and get that figured out over there.
Yo, what a fucking.
And when you go to
dick.
small claims and you go against someone that doesn't have anything, you don't get nothing.
You don't get shit.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Dude,
that's brutal, man. And that's like, that's the cherry on top of everything. And you still were like, let's keep fighting.
I didn't care.
Like,
It's
that's
materialistic things, bro.
bro, yeah, those are things that you can get back with a couple of years
it's
of work.
true. It is true, guys. It's definitely true, right? Like, it is materialistic, but let's be real. That's not the point. The point is that hits your pride.
Oh, for sure. Don't get me wrong when I say it's a materialistic thing. Like, I was pissed.
Yeah. What kind of car was it?
So, so here's the thing. It wasn't an expensive car.
No,
Remember I
It
told you
doesn't
guys.
matter. It doesn't
No, but here's the deal.
It could have been a wagon with 2 horses.
Hey, I want to tell you guys this.
Still, bro.
You're going too long. I just want to know what kind of car it is.
Look, my grandpa had bought me the car because I was broke.
Oh, man.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was a Camry. It was a used Camry. My grandpa had went and used his savings to buy me the car just so I could get to and from work.
Oh my god.
Man.
That's why.
Okay. See, that's listen, guys, I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic. I struggled my whole life with anger issues. But those are the things that make me that make me want to go on a rampage and just hit a motherfucker.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Now, I'm not advocating. I have never laid hands on a woman. I will never, because I have sisters. I have daughters. I will never. But it makes you think about how what it takes to keep your composure, or not to go to a person that does something like that to you and just punch their head off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I applaud you for, you know, obviously you have a huge reason for to keep your composure.
Yeah.
But someone else would have done something stupid.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
And just for our listeners, that's our buddy Freddie. He's our co-host on here. Just in case anyone's like, who's that third voice? that sexy accent is our podcast brother. That's our co-host, Freddie. Say hi, Freddie.
Hi, Freddie.
Well played. Freddie, you make a really good point. And now more serious note, you guys have to understand something really quick. And this is for the listeners and everybody who's going through it. If a judge or someone puts someone in a situation like that, and that person isn't very like controlled, like they can't control their anger, right? Or that person is like can't control their emotions. Can you imagine the risk they put that other person in? Like Freddie made a good point, right? I've never put hands on a woman. Me neither. But imagine someone who has put hands on a woman, and that happened to them. Now they're putting that mom at risk, because that can make a man really snap.
For sure.
You know, like just listening to the story is making my blood kind of boil. You know what I mean? So these little things that people do, man, and then guess what happens? Then guess who's the bad guy?
We are. Every time.
Who's the bad guy? Oh, he shouldn't have done that. You don't know the backstory behind it, and it's never okay. And I'm going to highlight this, and I stand by this, no matter what. Well, I'm not going to say no matter what. There is exceptions, but don't ever put hands on a woman ever. That's just not how this goes. The only time that I think there's an exception to putting your hands on a woman is if they're beating up your kids. Then you're more than welcome to grab that girl and throw her across the room or something. But for the most part, it is never okay to put hands on a woman. That's a big deal, man. Don't put yourself in that situation. And guys, let's recap on some stuff that I want to be super clear about. This podcast is not to bash moms. It is not to bash women. This podcast is nothing of that sort. We are not bashing on his baby mom. We're not bashing on my baby mom. We're just talking about our horror story of going through courts and how we handled it. And we're just trying to give you guys a little bit of advice. Like, hey, at the end of the day, no matter how tough it gets, you got to push through. You got to push through. You got to push through. So this is more like an inspiration as opposed to like a bashing, right? Because we're not going to do that. We're not going to bash here either. Like, that's brutal and it is what it is. But, not once did he say her name. Not once did he call her bitch. Like, that's not what we're here for. And so the reason why I want to highlight that is because I see a lot of dads that come from anger and they start bashing moms and they start doing all that. We don't do that here. That's not what Dad Lives Matter is about, just so you guys know. And that's completely off the subject. And I just want to throw it out there because I want to be clear with our journey and why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So just to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think we're past our time here. But Luna, what is something? I think you already said it, but what is something that you want our guests to really take away from this? Like, what is one thing that you're like, hey, I wish somebody told me this when I was going through this, or what is something that you're like, take this with you?
So I think the most important thing when it comes to court is to slow down and really pay attention to all the details, because one word can make or break your whole filing. One box can completely make you have to go back and redo it. So one of the things that my wife Carmen was able to teach and invest into me was slow down, double check, triple check, and make sure. And I know that not everybody can afford it, because I know I couldn't. But the reality of it is make sure you got a good lawyer if you can afford one. I would just like to take a minute to thank Tam Fox. Tam Fox took my account on my case on pro bono after a while, because she seen that I was doing nothing but trying to fight the truth. If it was not for Tam Fox, I would not have my son. My wife will tell you, Tam Fox is truly an angel. She's a lawyer here in Sacramento, and she would go in there and she wouldn't say a word. And I would get frustrated and ask, why are you not saying anything? And then boom, she would just blow up and just shut the whole court down every single time. Never once did she say anything that was stupid or didn't make sense or was questioned. And so if we're looking at it in that perspective, make sure you have a lawyer that actually cares about your kid, not about your money. And those things, slow down, pay attention, and make sure your lawyer is truly invested in you. Because Tam Fox, she didn't care about the money. Matter of fact, she got to a point where she actually gave me a check for $1,000 to thank me, and that's not heard of. Now I helped her with some stuff, but that's not heard of. You know what I mean? So my Tam Fox was our angel.
Well, one more time, her first and last name.
Her name is Tan Fox, and she's based out of North Sacramento. She's a family law lawyer, and there's no lawyer better. I went through 5 or 6 lawyers. She is amazing.
And
I don't remember.
If she hears this podcast, we just want to say thank you. And this is the outcome of doing good work. This is what good work, the outcome of it. So thank you for that. For any of those who don't have a lawyer or can't afford a lawyer, I did this whole thing without a lawyer, just so you guys know. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I don't want anyone to be discouraged and be like, well, fudge, I can't afford a lawyer. No. He's just saying, if you can, go that route. If you can't, totally fine, guys. The same rules still apply. Stay calm. Make sure you fill your paperwork calmly. Don't drink and fill your paperwork. I'll tell you that right now. Just stay calm. Stay patient. Consistency is key. You have to stay consistent. You can't give up. You got to fight through it. And another thing too, like maybe find someone that you can vent to. So that way, by the time you're done with the court, you can vent to someone, and then that's done, and you release it, and then you refresh. So that's definitely some advice I would throw out there as well for the people who can't afford an attorney.
For sure. And the other thing is, don't lie, because once you lie, you have to remember it, and then there's no reason for that. You're not there to win an argument. You're there to just make sure your child is safe. That's exactly
it. And that's a big one, bro. And thank you for saying that, guys. You're there to make sure your child is safe. Don't talk about money. When people talk to me, their dads, and they're fighting custody battles, they want to talk to me about child support. I don't even listen to those conversations. I'm like, dude, you're in there for the wrong reason. If you're more concerned about child support, then you're gonna lose every fucking time. Doesn't matter. That's dumb. That's ridiculous. Don't worry about that. And that's a big one. So thanks for saying a couple of those things. Like, worry about the child's safety. Another key factor: don't say my son, my daughter. Say our kid, our daughter, our son. Don't make it about you. That's the worst thing you can do in court, is make it about
They
you.
hate that. They hate that.
Don't do that. So those are some tips from my buddy Luna and your boy Big Fern. Luna, thank you so much, man, for being able to share your story, man. I know this is your first time, right, doing this?
Yeah, this is the first time ever.
So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you
guys, like he said, how old is your son now?
He's 13 now.
And he finally got custody at 10. So it took 10 years, you know what I mean? And so that's a big deal, man. But again, thank you for sharing your story with us, brother. I really appreciate you. Like I said, man, I really consider you a family member. Like,
For sure.
You're a brother of mine, man. We talk all the time. Someone that I look up to as well, you know what I mean? So
that's a mutual feeling.
Absolutely appreciate that, brother. So thank you for being here, man. And you guys, he's going to go ahead. We're going to drop some links if you want to connect with Luna. He's on TikTok. What else are you on? TikTok and what else? You're only on 2 platforms, right?
I'm only on TikTok. I have a little YouTube page for my kids where it's just us fishing, but I'm not really a big media guy. But I do have my own business in Sacramento. I own a heating and AC business called Luna Heating and Air. I also, like I said, I work at a community resource project.
You have an email?
Yeah, I do. ZayaLuna17@gmail.com.
Say that again slowly, please.
Zaya, ZayaLuna17@gmail.com.
Perfect. So in case you guys have any questions, you want to reach out to him, please email him. I know he's open about that. Check out his TikTok as well. We'll make sure to add a link to the profile. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening to this. I hope that helps somebody out there. As usual, make sure that you rate our podcast, review it, leave a review, and subscribe. We appreciate you guys listening. All right. A rato, vatos.